Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Sell, Grow, the Human Experience Podcast. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit subscribe. Let me know what you think of this episode because you're going to learn some cool stuff about marketing today. My guest is Justin Croxton, the CEO of Propellant Media, a geofencing, marketing, and omnichannel paid media agency with offices in Atlanta and in Charlotte. Justin, welcome to the show, my friend.
Eric, what's going on, boss? Good to chat with you, man.
You too. So, Justin, for those who don't know you, we're going to learn a lot. We got entrepreneurs in here. We got business owners. Tell us who you are before we learn about what you do.
Yeah, well, of course, Justin Croxton. I'm a father. I have a 6.5-year-old. Of course, my wife and I, and three of us, we live in Atlanta, Georgia. And I run our Atlanta office, but we have a Charlotte office. But before Propellant Media, man, it was a struggle. I mean, a little bit of my background. I started off by working in commercial real estate. So I worked at Jones Lang LaSalle, one of the largest commercial real estate firms in the world. Yep. Did that for 6 years. Decided I wanted to go back to business school. Right?
Is that in Atlanta?
That was in Atlanta. So I was working out of the Atlanta office. It was a little bit more decentralized. So I had more opportunities to just kind of, more opportunities for upward mobility in the Atlanta office compared to Chicago is where they have their main headquarters. So worked out of the Atlanta office for 6 years. Decided, you know what? I want to go back and get my business school degree. So I went to Stern School of Business in New York, was there for 2 years. Around that same time, I was, really getting into this whole digital marketing thing. And a lot of my classmates were kind of getting into like investment banking and brand manager stuff. And I'm like, oh, man, I'm kind of about that entrepreneurial life. And so during my internship, I created an LLC. I was fortunate. I had a buddy that was in business school that actually had a client. He was just dabbling into digital marketing as well. But then I kind of started picking up a few clients while I was there in New York. And I was like, man, this is it. This is where it's at. The fact that you can, have a business and have clients anywhere in the world at this juncture. I mean, back then it was a concept, but now, the rest is history. And so I started my own sort of digital marketing consulting, for just a one-man shop. But golly, man, growing up in New York, thank God I had my wife because I would have been going crazy. The costs of living in New York is just insane.
Were you in Manhattan or where in New York were you?
So I was in, so Stern is sort of the lower part of Manhattan, close to like, where's Stern? It's it was like lower than 10th Street, let's call it. And I actually my wife and I, we lived in Hoboken, New Jersey, like Jersey City, Hoboken, New Jersey, because she's from Jersey City. So it was like, this would be a great happy medium. So she can go to her family. I can just hop on a PATH train, boop, head over there to, NYU and then do whatever I need to do while I'm in the city and then come right back. It's just like living in Bronx, if you will, or living in Harlem, if you will. And so, I had my own consulting practice, digital consulting. So I was doing Google ads, not Facebook, Google ads, SEO. I was really, really good at that stuff. And, but it was still tough, when you're talking about these incumbents that are out here. And I think a lot of folks, on the podcast can attest to this. We have all these incumbents that have these pre-existing relationships. And the tough part about that is like, you can either, offer something that's better, different, or, let me split it this way. If you don't have something that's different, it's hard to break up those relationships, and, there was, I'm knocking on doors, trying to have conversations. It was just tough. And so, cash flow gets a little tight, things were okay, but it wasn't going the way I expected. So my wife and I, we moved back to Atlanta, Georgia. That's when I met a group of guys and we sort of started learning about this whole thing around programmatic display and geofencing. And then, formed this agency and I, became the CEO of the company. And I could talk about the growth of the company too, but that's sort of my background and sort of how I transitioned fully into programmatic display, in this case, running a geofencing advertising agency.
Where did the entrepreneurial bug come from?
Man, my pops. So my mother, Dale Croxton, she was an educator. for many, many years. And my dad was an entrepreneur. He had his own legal forensic photography business. So what does that mean? So, whenever there was like, a car accident or like a major case that was happening, like there was a Tropicana casino fall that happened in Atlantic City, my father would be on the scene to take a lot of pictures so they can use that as evidence in cases. And 90% of his clientele were other attorneys, effectively. And so what fascinated about, with not just what he did, but in general, is like my dad, I'd say at least 2 times a week, he would always drive me to school on the weekends. I'm not weekends, but 2 times a week, drive me to school in downtown Philadelphia. So he'd drive me, he had the flexibility to do that kind of thing. We'd go boating on the weekends. It was just the best experience. And, I just always knew I needed that level of, I don't know if I call it freedom, but optionality. To be able to have those kind of options, to be able to be in, be in the lives of my son or my kids or whatever. And I said, this is kind of the track that I know that I'll be going down. I don't know if I'll be a doctor or, that kind of thing. So
as a kid, were you curious? Were you like, Dad, how do you have all this time? Or how did you know that it was because of entrepreneurship that he was able to spend the time with you and drive you? And how did you even know to appreciate that as a kid,
Well, I don't say I was a smart kid, but I was pretty astute. I could pick up. I won't say I was picking up on that kind of stuff when I was 6 years old. But when I was like 10, 11 years old, I was very attuned to what my pops was doing professionally. And I knew that he could take off of work or get to work late because he was driving me to school. Or we could do certain things on the weekends, like drive to, the Chesapeake Bay to go sailing on the Chesapeake Bay because the job made enough money that gave us the opportunity to do that kind of thing. not just him, the entire family, but the flexibility was what I really appreciated more than anything else. And I was like, yo, like, this is my life. And, Dad, I'd do some work. I'd intern with my dad from time to time. So I knew what he did. And so, that it's, my dad has a certain level of emotional intelligence. I feel like that rubbed off on me a little bit at a young age. And you start picking up on stuff like, this is why we are able to do what we do. All right.
Man,
like that.
This is like music to my ears because I got 2 little boys. I got a 13 and a 9-year-old. And my 9-year-old's kind of, he's happy-go-lucky. I don't know what he's paying attention to, which I'm sure he does. But the 13-year-old, I have these conversations with him because I try to drive him to school and pick him up from school every single day. I got the flexibility and I absolutely love that. But I make a point to tell him, like, hey, dude, if I had like a 9-to-5 job, I probably couldn't do this. But because I have my own business and I can set my own hours and I'm flexible, and because your mom has a business, and we make it a point. So you saying that, I'm like, man, if my kids grow up and be entrepreneurs and they're free, we've done a good job. I love it.
We've done a good job. Yeah.
And then my 9-year-old, man, me and him opened up a cotton candy business where he's selling cotton candy, and we're donating portions of the proceeds to like help the homeless and help the veterans too. So it's been pretty cool, man. So I appreciate you sharing that story with your dad.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the best gifts that you can give your kids is the ability to like give back. So that you coupling business with that component is a big deal, man. Well done.
Huge.
Well done.
All right.
Well done.
So differentiator, you mentioned you have to be able to differentiate yourself or people aren't going to leave their incumbent.
Yeah.
So what did you come up with?
Yeah. So I was beating my head with the Google ads and SEO stuff. Everybody does that. When I moved back to Atlanta, and formed this company, Propellant Media, the first 2 years was tough. We didn't really have a full identity. We said, we'll offer this as a service, but we're going to go after historically Black colleges or colleges and universities, right? And that was a horrible idea, just for the record, because going after colleges when you're a startup, it's not like I had like a million relationships or I've done a ton of work in the collegiate space. I just thought it would be a great space to work in. And if you think about like the best clients to work with, right? You want them to have a budget. You want them to be able to make decisions relatively quickly. You want to be able to know that what you can do can actually make a difference, and maybe you have some past experiences.
And you want them to feel the pain of their problem.
Yes, and you want them to really feel the pain of what they're dealing with, right?
Yes.
I mean, I didn't really have any of that stuff.
No, that
when we're and particularly with colleges, when they take a long time, and you're a small business, you need cash flow. You need some quick pop so I can get the momentum. And so first 2 years were still a little tough. We were still going after mostly colleges, but then we were still taking on some other clients, small businesses. And I was like, you know what, it's a lot going on here.
What was the idea for colleges? How were you going to help them?
Part of it was just going to be offering, omnichannel paid media strategies. So it was going to include like geofencing, Google ads, Facebook advertising, digital strategy, just the whole 9 yards from a digital marketing execution perspective.
Gotcha.
That was really kind of like our go-to-market. And the fact that, as an African-American agency, or owned agency, we have some insights specific to, culturally ethnic markets where you say, you know what, I think we know this market pretty well. We can get in front of these markets and make certain you're getting your message directly in front of them, right? Yeah. We also had tools that allowed us to do that. So we said, all right, this is somewhat of a differentiator. And we can really have some powerful conversations with colleges that are out there if they're really trying to work on diversity and things of that nature. Great, right? But again, like you're dealing with like certain schedules that, colleges have when it comes to like budget approvals, and then they have an agency of record that they're currently working with, and just all this stuff.
RFP process. Now
RFP process.
Yeah, it's nuts. A nightmare for a small business.
It's a nightmare for a small business. Yeah. It's a nightmare for a small business. And so that was 2015, 16-ish, right? 2017, we're getting a change done to our website. One of our other team members is kind of spearheading the charge, but someone else, like a partner, is actually building it for us. All of us come into the room. I see the website, and I'm like, it was kind of like a blow up, but an epiphany moment at the same time, where I said, like, yo, the site is trash. It is absolutely trash. We can't, and this is really kind of a learning moment for everyone that's listening. You can't have a website that is just a resume. This is who I am. This is what I do. These are my services. Here's my contact page that you have to click a couple of links through in order to get there. I'm the right person you should work with. I'm very convincing, trust me, kind of thing, right? And that's what our site looked like at the time. And I said, this ain't going to do it.
What year was this, by the way?
This was 2017. This was like early 2017.
Funnels are already out. People want this.
All that's already out. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
All that's already out.
Okay.
So I'm not a web developer, but I took it upon myself to, with another partner that I had relationships up in New York, to help build out our site. So there's two things that we did. One, I mean, folks can go to it just out of curiosity. It's propellant.media. It's www.propellant.media. And you'll notice that it's not your typical ClickFunnels type of a landing page that's short form, or maybe it is long form, but, it's not just like, call it like very thinly veiled landing pages. These landing pages are deep, very, very deep. And in addition to that, my perspective was, if we go to the market, focus on educating everyone, then we are looked at as the thought leader in this space. That was the first thing. But the second is probably just as important, is differentiating with a focus on geofencing advertising. Why? Because everybody, their mom, their dad, their cousin, their brother, everyone does Google ads. Everyone already does Facebook advertising, or somewhat back at that point in 2017. Everyone does SEO. And so it was like, okay, how can we be different? Did the market research, could see, all the different searches for like geofencing and whatnot. And it says, we need to lead with this. Popcorn started popping, phones started ringing, leads started coming in. We even started getting other agencies reaching out to us. And at first I was like, we're not really a white label agency. but I'm not going to turn that down.
No, sir.
So we created a white label partner arm to service agencies. And then we also have direct brands. And so that's kind of how we grew. And then for me, it's like you start with something that's working really, really well. And then you keep building on top of it. So we started building more content, more ebooks. I started just trying to become more of a face of the organization. So I started doing a ton of videos. Another tip for everyone that's out there. How do I say this? It's sort of like the corporate unveiling. People do business with people. They don't do business with corporations. So the more you're able to show your personality, your voice, the real you on your site through video, I promise you're going to get a lot more people that's going to connect with you. I say this all the way up and down from a car dealership, all the way down to your traditional small business owner that's like a B2B consultant trying to do high ticket sales, everything in between, because people do business with people. They need to find a way to connect with you. That's another way for you to differentiate yourself out there. So I know I said a lot in that time frame, but those are kind of things. That's kind of things that we just started implementing. We just kept building on top of it, over the last 5, 6+ years now.
That's awesome. I checked out your website. What I thought was really cool was that little chat bot that pops up.
Yeah.
It's your picture on it. You're the chat bot. It's like, hey, I'm the customer service rep. Are you looking for pricing or something else? I was like, all right, that's really, really good.
Yeah. And so, it's funny because it's like a chat bot. So it qualifies people. I'm using that through HubSpot, by the way, for anyone that's curious. So it's HubSpot we're a HubSpot Gold partner, but when someone goes in, they can chat with it. And then it makes certain that you're an actually qualified user. And then our team gets pinged and then they come into having the conversation, essentially, with the person. And so, it's, just trying to give yourself as many opportunities to get the lead, get the contact details, as you know very well, Eric.
Yeah. So I'm not, I'm a novice in this marketing game, and I absolutely love what you can do. For those people who don't really understand what geofencing is, could you just give us a little bit of an insight into that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So geofencing marketing is the practice of serving ads to people in very, very precise areas. Basically, what's happening is we're utilizing your mobile device and wherever you go to give us some insights into your intent to buy. So what do I mean by that? If you're going to a car dealership, like right now, right? And you're going to the showroom, I'd say 8 to 10, 9 times out of 10, you're likely in market looking to buy a car. So a lot of times car dealerships, they'll come to us and say, hey, I want to target more people that are looking to buy a car. We'll say, okay, great. Give us the 15, 20 dealerships that's within a 5 to 10 mile radius, maybe 5 mile radius of your location. We'll build virtual fences around those locations. And when a consumer goes to that location, we're able to capture their mobile device ID and begin serving ads to them, both while they're inside of the geofence and then even after they've left the geofence, right? So after they've left the geofence, we can continue serving ads to them. Traditionally, those ads are being delivered on mobile apps and websites. So if you think about Angry Birds, Words with Friends, the Weather Channel, Fox News, et cetera, the sky's the limit. I mean, it's millions of apps and websites that are out there. So
Facebook,
it's kind of like
one of them, or is that different?
Well, we've developed some ways in which we can geofence. Yes, short answer. Like we can actually geofence a location and send that audience data over into Facebook and then start serving ads that way as well. So we have some ways that we can, actually make that happen, because you're going to traditionally have higher click-through rates on Facebook and Instagram than you would on the programmatic, in this case, on the geofencing channels, but you're still getting to people who are in market effectively. It's been a great experience. It's been a great ride. There are certain cases where, it may not be as effective, of course. But what I tell a lot of people is that geofencing is great as part of an omni-channel plan. And depending on the industry, like car dealerships or real estate developers, it's incredibly works well just by itself even. And so, that's really the process of geofencing. Doesn't cost a lot of money to do it. I definitely don't suggest someone just do it for like $100. I mean, our minimums are higher than that. But you don't have to spend $100,000 to do geofencing. That's for sure.
Why is it called geofencing?
Yeah, the reason why it's called geofencing is because you're utilizing someone's geographic location and building a fence around that boundary. And so there's a lot of, explainer videos that are out there. We have one on our site, but in this case, we're building a literal geofence, a fence around your geographic location. And I'm not just talking about like a neighborhood or a city. I mean, literally, if you're at, Rick Hendricks Chevrolet, I can go into the map and build a 12-coordinate polygon fence around that location. And when that mobile device goes inside that location, I'm able to capture it and begin serving ads to those people during that period of time.
That is the most savage thing ever. I like how you use the term, we serve ads, like you're some kind of a butler with, we're going to serve you the ads. And
I've been saying it for so long, man. It just comes naturally now.
It did come naturally. It's like people got to be scratching their head. We get served ads. What do you want a tip for that? Like,
yeah, you need a tip for that. Yeah, it's just like just click on it.
Because if these ads could be in form of coupons. It could be in form of awesome deals that you probably couldn't get if you didn't step into the geofence. But I think it's just so freaking savage, man, because you mentioned Rick Chevrolet.
Rick Hendrick said Chevrolet.
Chevrolet.
Yeah.
And most car dealers are in like an auto park. It's not just Rick Hendricks. It's his 17 competitors.
It's Hyundai. It's it's Honda. It's Toyota.
And it's all Rick, and then you got Bob and Mike and Jim and whoever else, right?
Right.
And so if I'm Jim, I can literally put a geofence around everybody in my park. And as soon as people start going in there, I can shoot a note saying, we have the lowest rates for loans in this park specifically.
Yes, you can do that. Absolutely.
Dude, that's savage.
Yeah. You know what, man, it's so funny. There's certain industries that like we do work on a lot of different industries with the application of just geofencing alone. I think the one industry that could really kill it is the restaurant space. Because a lot of times as a restaurateur, you just want to get more butts and seats, serve a great cuisine to that individual and get them to come back on a regular basis. Just keep thinking about you, right? But for me as a consumer, a lot of times I just need someone to tell me where to go to eat. There's so many options that are out here. If I saw something that was on my phone, I said, oh, snap, Muscle Turner's. Wow, it's like a restaurant that's nearby. Oh, I didn't even know about this place. It serves seafood. Oh, I love seafood. Let me click. Oh, yo, babe, you know about this spot? Yo, I want a date night. I'm going to take you to Muscle Turner. It's literally that simple. It's like, it's $50 is like my purchasing decision at that stage. So for a lot of restaurants that are out there, restaurant groups, man, a lot of times you just need to remind people that you either exist or that you have something that's cool or a coupon or whatever, and people are going to check you out. And so you can geofence other restaurants in the neighborhood, build a virtual fence. And here's the cool thing I forgot to mention. We can even measure how many people saw or clicked on your ads and then came back to your physical location. So if you're a car dealer, we can build a conversion zone around your dealership and tell you how many people from Rick Hendrick or from Honda or from Toyota saw or clicked on your ads and they came back to your dealership. So you can gain some perspective of attribution from your campaigns effectively.
Wow. It's interesting you mentioned car dealerships. As a good friend of mine handles the marketing department for a pretty prominent car dealer here locally. And before I was hopping on this interview with you, I was checking out your site and I learned about geofencing. I actually sent him a text message and that's my man F3 Bing, David Kelly. You know who you are. I'm sure you're listening. He's going to check it out. I send him that just to say, this is like the coolest thing ever. So the fact that you're actually talking about car dealerships is pretty neat.
Yeah, that's crazy. I wasn't even think about that, but I appreciate it. Yeah, it's I'll say this. There's many applications with geofencing. It's not the penicillin that's going to solve all of your marketing problems. It's great as part of a bigger picture of some of the things that you're trying to do. And getting back to the brass tacks of how we grew is we didn't lead with omnichannel or Google ads. Everybody's been there, done that, heard that, seen that. We led with geofencing. in programmatic display. And we became a thought leader in that space. So if you did a search for geofencing, both SEO wise and other ways, you'll find us. Promise you that. And then, you know, for a lot of the entrepreneurs out there, you know, you own your space and you build great content around it and you show your personality. And you're going to give yourself many, many more chances to get leads that come in, book those demos, and have those conversations with those prospects. And that's kind of what we did. And we just keep building more advanced ways to create that opportunity for ourselves.
Man, that's a great point. What about online, right? Like, so me, for example, my ideal clients, if you would, they may not go to a specific, I don't have competitors with storefronts, but they would attend certain seminars or click on certain ads on Facebook or attend certain webinars on LinkedIn. Is there a way to put a geofence around that and then target those people?
You can't so if it's an event, like if it's like we have a lot of folks in the B2B space that want to target people that go to conferences. Like I think I've gotten like 3 emails just today alone on conference event targeting.
Oh, wow.
And so you can build a virtual fence around a conference, serve ads to them both while they're at the conference, and then retarget them for up to 30 days after the conference. So that you can do for sure. When it comes to like those other signals that you're just talking about online, like, you know, someone that clicked and went to your site and then left, you do site retargeting all day long. It's like just reach a traditional site retargeting campaign. You can retarget through programmatic channels, Google Display, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. TikTok actually requires a higher number of like a higher audience pool, but sky's the limit from that perspective. But when it comes to like geofencing specifically, you can do like an event itself, like if someone's having a seminar, but we usually recommend events that have a size of at least 1,000 people, because otherwise the juice isn't worth the squeeze.
Yep.
That's typically what we suggest though.
What about social media marketing? Like what do you see as a good trend nowadays? Is there a certain platform that gets better results than others? And is there a certain way to market on those platforms versus others?
Man, it's like it sometimes, honestly, Eric, it feels like the wild, wild west a lot of times.
It seems that way.
Because, you know, I keep saying Facebook and Instagram, but Meta, right? So with Meta and their platform, they've gone through a process of actually removing a lot of interest-based targeting. So if you wanted to target people like this, it doesn't allow you for the same level of targeting. They want to have more control over some of that kind of stuff. And so, you know, a lot of times there are certain platforms, I still personally believe it really does depend on your audience. And so if you're more in a B2B kind of environment, I do believe that, you know, LinkedIn is probably a little better. It may cost a little bit more, but the quality is going to be better. But at the same time, you know, there's a lot of folks who will say, I'm just going to just do LinkedIn and that's it. You can't look at it just that way. You have to look at it as, how do you find that person that is not just your perfect avatar, but is like, I'm kind of at that stage where I'm ready to buy, or I'm not ready to buy, but I've been kind of thinking about it. That's kind of like your market, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes that person doesn't always convert the same way across all channels. They just don't. Sometimes they'll convert, you know, at a higher propensity on LinkedIn than they may on Facebook. Like a lot of times, I'll give you a great example, like on Facebook, you know, there tends to be like lower quality, quote unquote, depending on the type of conversion action that you set up. Now we're getting into some like really advanced stuff. You might have lower quality, but you have a higher volume, right? So that means that maybe you have more chances to convert these people. Whereas LinkedIn, you may get less leads, but it's of higher quality, you know, kind of like with Google Ads, higher quality, but it costs you more. But you have still, you know, you're kind of trying to create that balance. But the bottom line is that just because that person converted one way on LinkedIn doesn't mean they would convert the same way on Facebook. And for me, the way I look at it is for Propellant Media, we do site retargeting across the board. So I want to hit you everywhere. If you were searching for geofencing or OTT advertising or your higher education, I want to hit you everywhere. I want to keep my brand in front of you. And I've seen our site retargeting campaigns on LinkedIn do just as well as Facebook. But the key is hitting them wherever they go. So you are seen as that thought leader. You're like, man, I can't get away from these guys. And then, there's stuff around attribution modeling and whatnot, but I don't want to get into that with this conversation.
I appreciate it. What about the types of ads? Are you seeing certain ads work better than others?
Yeah, we do see carousel does pretty well, but I'm sort of the opinion, and even from the data, proves some of this out, that having traditional static banner ads still does pretty well, just as much as video in certain cases. So like if you're trying to, it depends on like what you're pushing out there. I do see video still do relatively well, because if you're able to show your personality, as I said before, be authentic, talk about who you are, what it is that you want to provide as a service or as a product, it makes a huge difference, right?
Yeah.
But again, folks will say, okay, I test out 10 different creative, I have these 1080 by 1080 ads, maybe 19 by 20, whatever, and then I have video. I personally believe it's good to have the best performers for each of them. Even if you have one that's not performing as well, it's nice to have someone see something different than seeing the same thing over and over and over again. Because you don't know how someone, now it'd be one thing if one of the creatives not converting at all. But if you have like 4 that's converting and you have like 2 video, let's call it, or 1 video, and then like 3 or 4 static banners,
yeah,
I would totally go with that approach. It's about having a good mix and then focusing a little bit more on the message. Like maybe it's a particular offer or it's a promotion, things of that nature. That's what I think about when I'm like, okay, what kind of creative or message that I want to push out there? Whether it's video or static banner, if I have the creative team that can develop video, then great. I'll utilize that. But, I think you start winning the battle when you've really honed your message on what's resonating with people, or you're trying to give them something that they want, but they can only get it kind of through you, if you will, and you're bringing some value in the front end of your relationship.
That's a really good point. When people come to your organizations, hire you, and I'm sure you've heard, listen, we're trying, marketing, it's not working. What mistakes do you commonly see made?
Commonly seen mistakes I see is setting up key performance indicators, or certain benchmarks that are not so much unrealistic, but doesn't take into consideration the process that someone has to go to become a customer. So what do I mean by that? If you just, as I've talked about our site, and we're really focused on lead generation and do quite a bit of it for ourselves, but the site is very, very intentional. Whether you pull it up on your phone or on a desktop, I think we create at least like 3 to 4 opportunities for you to submit your contact details, or book a demo with us, or to call us, or to send us an email, or to chat with us, right? Those are so many different ways that you can get engaged with us. A lot of folks that come to us initially say, hey, I just got the site. I kind of like a resume. I got some basic information. And I want to run a paid media campaign. I want to do geofencing or whatever. And I'm kind of like, well, we can do it, but you have to really kind of reframe what your marketing objective is. If your objective is brand awareness, consideration, just trying to let people know that, keep your brand top of mind so that they're ready to buy, then that's great. But if your focus is lead gen and sales, okay, let's talk about that. Let's look at your site. People don't even have a phone number at the top of the landing page, or you don't have a form submission, not just a button that someone can click, but an actual form submission that shows up above the fold, because what we're trying to do is make it easy for people to submit their contact details. And maybe on top of that, you say, hey, submit your contact details and you get access to this free ebook, right? Little things like that provides even more incentive. For you on a B2B sales front, as you can imagine, like if you can, how do I say this? If you can incentivize people to book a demo with you, you can monetize that. Like say I'm going to give a $50 Amazon gift card to every person that books a demo with me. You may say to yourself, man, I wonder if I would have gotten that demo anyway. maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't have, maybe you have some data prior to that actually occurring. But if you're providing more incentives, you can see what that return looks like after the fact. And there's a lot of people that say, hey, you should contact me because I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. That's not how the world works. You have to bring value to people before they become a customer. You need to give people tools, strategies, tips, context. Sometimes you got to give money, whatever. You got to give something that gets people into the door. Car dealerships do this stuff all the time. Restaurants do it all the time. Come here, you'll get a $25 gift card, whatever. Do what you need to do to see what the cost is of X in order to get that customer, to get them on the phones, get their butts into the store. And if you're thinking about it more from that perspective, you're in a good space. There's a lot of people that don't do any of that stuff. And that's the first thing that I tell folks. Look at your site, look at your offers, look at the value that you're bringing to people. If you do those things, you're going to put yourself in a much better space.
Man, Justin, I love your attitude. Love the attitude. No wonder your company has grown. How can people, yeah, man, how can people find you and get in touch with you?
Oh man, you just go to propellant.media. If you do a search for Propellant Media, you'll find us. But if you go to www.propellant.media, you'll find us for sure.
Yeah, it's worth going to check out that explainer video about what geofencing is. I thought it was fascinating. Yeah. I'm going to geofence all of you guys who are listening to this show, wherever you are.
That's right.
I'm sending you my ads.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Thanks for being here, my friend.
That was great. I appreciate it, Eric. Thanks so much, man.
Have a good one.